It's March 2015, in a dimly lit Glasgow pub. Robert Allen, a small-time dealer, sips his pint, unaware that his £30,000 drug debt has marked him for death. Suddenly, David Sell and Barry O'Neill, enforcers for Scotland's most ruthless crime syndicate, drag him into a van. In a derelict Baileyston garage, they pistol whip him with a Beretta, leaving him bloodied and begging. This brutal act, tied to the empire of James and Barry Gillespie, reveals the terror of their £100 million a year cocaine cartel. This is the story of Operation Escalade, the hunt for Scotland's narco kings, and how a single car key brought it all down. Welcome to Crime Pulse, where we dive into the darkest corners of the criminal underworld. If you're new here, hit subscribe and join our growing community digging into the UK's most dangerous criminal underworlds. Like, share, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. James and Barry Gillespie rose from the concrete streets of Rutherglen, South Lanarkshire, a town battered by industrial collapse and rife with petty crime. In the early 1990s, the teenage brothers were already earning on the fringes of Glasgow's drug scene, running errands for dealers, collecting debts, and learning who really held power in the city's underworld. Their first serious alliance came in 1993 with Stephen Docherty, a feared Rutherglen trafficker who controlled much of the local cocaine and heroin trade. Docherty didn't just employ the Gillespies, he mentored them. He taught them the game, how to secure supply through Glasgow's docks, how to manage crews, and how to intimidate without leaving fingerprints. The brothers started as muscle, but their ambition set them apart. While others chased quick profits, James and Barry studied the supply chain. They made early contacts in Liverpool and London and began recruiting loyal friends from childhood to build a tight, disciplined crew. Then came the turning point. In 1995, Stephen Docherty died after falling from a tenement window in Glasgow's south side. Officially, it was ruled accidental. Unofficially, many believed otherwise, and some whispered the Gillespies had played a role. No charges were ever brought, but the timing was telling. Within weeks, the brothers moved to consolidate Docherty's crew and seize control of his supply routes. They expanded fast, locking down Baileyston as a strategic base near the motorway network. By 1997, they were calling the shots. Rivals dubbed them the Escobar Brothers, a nod to their vision of building Scotland's first true drug empire. Unlike the chaotic street crews, they ran their operation like a business, structured, disciplined, and ruthless. They avoided the spotlight, stayed off the front lines, and focused on logistics, connections, and profit. By the late 1990s, their network was already shifting serious weight, cocaine and cannabis moving across Scotland with growing precision. The foundation for a £100 million empire was in place. By the early 2000s, James and Barry Gillespie had evolved from street-level dealers into the architects of one of Scotland's most sophisticated drug networks. Their base remained Glasgow's East End, especially Baileyston, but their reach stretched across Europe and beyond. At first, they sourced cocaine through contacts in Amsterdam and Liverpool. But by 2005, the brothers had gone direct, cutting deals with Brazilian cartels and moving high-purity cocaine through West African ports into Europe. That supply gave them dominance in Scotland's coke trade, with profits estimated at over £100 million a year. To clean the money, they used front businesses, car washes, rental properties, and offshore accounts in Spain and Portugal, where they quietly owned homes. The Gillespies stayed out of sight, operating like CEOs, while a trusted inner circle ran the day-to-day. One was Martin Fitzsimmons, a former soldier with weapons expertise, jailed in 2008 for supplying military-grade firearms to the Daniel crime family. He kept the Gillespies armed with pistols and automatic weapons. David Sell, a lorry driver with no criminal record, handled international trips, flying to Brazil to negotiate deals and arrange shipments via Ghana. In Edinburgh, Mark Richardson ran their local supply chain, keeping the capital streets flooded. Francis Mulligan and Anthony Woods, both mechanics, engineered a £250,000 fleet of modified vehicles, ordinary cars hiding hydraulic panels and Bluetooth-triggered compartments packed with drugs and guns. Every part of the machine was covered. Gerard Docherty, a childhood friend, arranged deliveries. Stephen McArdle laundered the cash, and Barry O'Neill, their muscle, collected debts with brute force. Their lockups, fortified units in Croftfoot, Cambuslang and Anniesland, were mini fortresses, secured with reinforced steel doors, motion sensors, and constant CCTV, and they were paranoid. Every week, their tech crew swept for police bugs using RF detectors and signal jammers bought from the same suppliers used by law enforcement. They ran clean, spoke on burners, and may have even used a private network. By the time Police Scotland launched Operation Escalade in 2014, the Gillespies were already ghosts. James and Barry rarely set foot in Glasgow. They ran everything from abroad, remote, encrypted, and always 2 steps ahead. By 2015, the Gillespie brothers weren't just drug barons, they were armed for war. That March, their brutality came into full view. Robert Allen, a low-level dealer with a £30,000 debt, was snatched from a Glasgow pub by David Sell and enforcers Barry O'Neill and another crew member. They dragged him to a derelict garage in Baillieston, beat him bloody, and pistol-whipped him with a Beretta. When police later recovered the weapon, Allen's DNA was still on it, a chilling piece of evidence tying the gang to the attack. But this was just a glimpse of their firepower. In a rented lockup on Whittinghame Drive in Anniesland, secured under a fake name and double padlocked, police uncovered a cache that stunned even seasoned detectives. 11 weapons, including Glock pistols, a Heckler & Koch MP5, and a live hand grenade. Every weapon was cleaned, wrapped, and tagged, catalogued like military-grade stock. Behind it was Martin Fitzsimmons, the ex-soldier turned underworld armorer, who sourced the guns through contacts in Eastern Europe and kept them ready for use. Their vehicles were no less dangerous. Inside a Cambuslang workshop, mechanics Francis Mulligan and Anthony Woods transformed ordinary cars into mobile vaults. Using hidden hydraulic rams and Bluetooth-activated triggers, they built compartments that could hide drugs, cash, and weapons, like the loaded Glock found inside a Toyota Yaris. Detectives later said even trained officers might miss these modifications during a search, and they weren't just hiding hardware, they were shielding themselves. The gang used encrypted phones, likely modified Blackberries running private software. Combined with daily counter-surveillance sweeps using US-made RF detectors and signal jammers, they stayed one step ahead of law enforcement. Detective Chief Superintendent Jerry McLean admitted tracking them was a nightmare. Their paranoia forced Police Scotland's OCCTU to rethink everything, deploying low-frequency trackers and holding constant risk assessments just to keep up. By the end of 2015, the Gillespie brothers weren't just untouchable. They were untouchable and armed to the teeth, making them the most dangerous criminal outfit Scotland had ever faced. By 2016, the Gillespie brothers weren't just running Scotland's drug trade, they were orchestrating it from the shadows of a global empire. James and Barry Gillespie had vanished from Glasgow streets, resurfacing in the Costa del Sol, Lisbon, and Fortaleza, Brazil. Alongside Lieutenants James White and Christopher Hughes, they posed as businessmen, sailing on private yachts, partying in exclusive clubs, and blending in with Brazil's elite. But behind the image was a high-stakes operation, moving tons of cocaine from cartel labs to European streets. David Sell, their most trusted courier, was at the center of it. Quiet, low profile, and clean on paper, he made frequent trips to São Paulo and Rio, meeting cartel figures, finalizing shipments. The cocaine moved in freight containers, hidden inside fruit exports or industrial goods, routed through West African ports like Lagos before landing in Rotterdam and slipping into the UK unnoticed. But then, things turned darker. In December 2016, Dutch blogger Martin Koch, infamous for exposing underworld players, was gunned down outside a sex club in Lauren. 8 shots. No mercy. The man who lured him there? Christopher Hughes, acting on behalf of the Gillespies. Dutch police uncovered phone data and surveillance linking Hughes to the setup. The message was clear. The Gillespie syndicate wasn't just exporting drugs. It was exporting murder. That hit brought international heat. Europol got involved. Police Scotland escalated Operation Escalade. High-level meetings were held at the US Embassy in London, with the FBI, DEA, and Interpol joining the effort. Intelligence confirmed the brothers were coordinating operations through encrypted apps, likely Signal or custom-built platforms, issuing orders to Glasgow lieutenants like Gerard Docherty from across the world. Cyber specialists tried to intercept the chatter, but the gang switched phones constantly, wiped devices, and used hardened encryption that made tracking near impossible. By late 2016, investigators watching the gang's lockups in Glasgow noticed something new, a crack forming, patterns emerging, mistakes being made. After years of running like clockwork, the Gillespie empire was beginning to show signs of strain. January 20th, 2017, 6 p.m., Church Street, Baillieston. Two OCCTU officers sit quietly in an unmarked car, eyes fixed on a silver Toyota Yaris. It's one of dozens they've been tracking in Operation Escalade. But what happens next, no one sees coming. Out of the dusk, Mark Richardson appears. The Edinburgh gangster walks straight past them. They move fast. Richardson bolts, but he doesn't get far. Within seconds, he's wrestled to the ground. In his pocket, a set of keys, including an unusual fob that doesn't match the Yaris's alarm. Detective Chief Superintendent Jerry McLean would later call it the tipping point. The officers open the car, and inside, they find something that changes everything. The fob triggers a Bluetooth receiver hidden inside the rear light cluster. The boot whirs open as a concealed metal plate rises, hydraulic. Underneath it, a 9mm Glock 17 pistol, loaded, ready to fire. Richardson's DNA is on the grip. This isn't luck, this is precision. On any routine stop, they'd have missed it, but this time, they didn't, and the floodgates open. Over the next 7 days, police storm a series of properties. First stop, a workshop on Croftside Avenue, Croftfoot. Among the evidence, a bundle of keys. One is marked simply, Annie. That key leads to a lockup on Whittingham Drive, Annie's Land. The unit stands out. Steel reinforced door. 2 industrial padlocks. The Annie key turns smoothly. What's inside stuns investigators. 11 firearms, boxed, bagged, catalogued. A stockpile of death. And forensic evidence tying the weapons to multiple crimes, including the brutal pistol whipping of Robert Allen. The Gillespie brothers' house of cards is starting to fall. With Richardson in custody and the Anniesland lockup exposed, the Gillespie empire began to unravel. Police Scotland's OCCTU, now backed by the NCA, Europol and Interpol, ramped up the pressure. More raids followed. In Cambuslang, a workshop on Westburn Farm Road revealed the inner workings of the gang's vehicle fleet. Cars retrofitted with hidden compartments by Mulligan and Woods. The evidence stretched beyond Glasgow. This wasn't just a drug crew. It was a global operation, with links to Brazil, Spain, and the Netherlands. But sophistication only took them so far. The gang's paranoia, once their strength, became their downfall. They'd invested in jammers, detectors, and signal blockers, but now, those same tools were turning up as evidence. Police couldn't always track them in real time, but they were collecting the breadcrumbs, bits of DNA, digital remnants, and surveillance data stitched together piece by piece. Inside the Anniesland arsenal, the Beretta used in Robert Allen's torture bore forensic traces linking back to the gang, other weapons tied directly to known players. Martin Fitzsimmons, the ex-soldier, was named as their armorer. His past dealings with stolen military firearms now coming full circle. David Sell's trips to Brazil were cross-referenced with intel from the DEA and FBI, who had joined forces with Operation Escalade. By February 2017, the net closed. 9 men were arrested in coordinated raids across Scotland. Mark Richardson, Martin Fitzsimmons, David Sell, Mulligan, Woods, all charged. The evidence was airtight. Guns, encrypted phones, cash, cocaine, and hard forensic links to violent crimes. But the masterminds were gone. James and Barry Gillespie had vanished. By 2018, they were believed to be holed up in a £320,000 beachfront apartment in Fortaleza, Brazil. But by 2019, even that trail had gone cold. Some say they were taken out, executed by cartel figures over a dispute involving protection payments. Others whisper they were dumped in the Amazon, their bodies never recovered. Detective Inspector Michael Lockery summed it up best. They were ghosts, until they weren't. The trial that closed Operation Escalade sent shockwaves through Scotland's criminal underworld. Prosecutor Alex Prentice QC described the gang's arsenal as unprecedented in the history of organised crime in Scotland. Ultimately, 9 men received a combined 87 years in prison, a testament to the groundbreaking nature of the case. James White, lieutenant, extradited from Brazil in 2022. 9 years, 10 months for serious organized crime and firearms offenses. David Sell, international courier involved in the torture of Robert Allen, 15 years, later confirmed in court filings. 3 other gang members, including John Bonner, Christopher Laycock, and David Kelly, were sentenced to a total of 18 years and 5 months for drug importation, firearms possession, and money laundering. The heavy sentences reflect not only individual guilt, but the dismantling of a powerful organized network. Operation Escalade captured and convicted those on the front lines while sending a clear message up the chain of command. With the foot soldiers behind bars, the operation pivoted to its true targets, James and Barry Gillespie, believed to be hiding in Brazil. Operation Escalade evolved into a multinational hunt supported by the DEA, FBI, Europol, and Interpol. Joint surveillance efforts, often coordinated through the US Embassy in London, tracked cocaine shipments from South America into Europe. Detective Chief Superintendent Jerry McLean stated bluntly, "They took their operation overseas to avoid justice, but we're global now too." Operation Escalade became more than a takedown. It became a turning point in digital policing. The case exposed a sharp technological gap between law enforcement and organized crime, prompting significant investment in cyber forensics, encrypted communications tracking, and international intelligence cooperation. The Gillespies built an empire, £100 million of drugs, weapons, encryption, and secrecy. 9 men are now behind bars, serving a collective 87 years. But the masterminds remain at large and possibly beyond this world. Whether the Gillespie brothers are still alive or have vanished into the Amazon's depths, their story delivers a stark warning. Organized crime can escape prison, but not justice. This is Crime Pulse, exposing the underworld's shadows. Subscribe, hit the bell, and join us next time for another gripping tale. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and keep pulsing.